Many beginners start their first Space Marine using the Citadel app. That's exactly what I'm going to do today as well. For this, I've written down the Citadel app recipe, and I'm now gathering all my paints from the many paint pots I have on my shelf. You might think you don't need much to paint an Ultramarine, but quite a few things add up if you're painting Parade ready. We're using 3 different shades of blue and 2 washes, called Shades by Citadel. We'll definitely need a black paint for color blocking, 3 different red and pink tones for the purity seal, some gray for the weapons, red and orange for the eyes, and a few metallic paints like silver, as well as 3 different gold tones and 2 gray-brown tones. I will be using 1 or 2 brushes, one slightly smaller and one slightly larger. Most of the time though, I'll be using only 1. I'll also be working with a dry brush and a makeup sponge. I'm starting with McCrack Blue. My Space Marine has been primed black, and now I'm going to paint the entire model with 2 thin coats of McCrack Blue. Using a sponge makes this step very fast and allows me to cover large areas easily. You could also use an airbrush. There's no special technique here, just quickly apply the paint with a sponge or a large brush. If you'd like to learn more about disassembling the miniature, feel free to check out my last video where I explain the assembly and sub-assembly process in detail. So we continue by painting the entire miniature blue. I first do a rough pass with the sponge, and then I apply the next thin layer with a brush to refine the details until the model is completely blue. The next step is a simple one. We apply the shade nylon oil over the entire miniature. Just load it straight from the pot and, using a large brush, shade every part of the model, the backpack, the arms, the body and the head. It doesn't matter if it pools in some areas or if there's too much in places. What's important is that the shade settles into the recesses and darkens them properly. Apply it once over the whole miniature and then let it dry. This is what it looks like right after the painting, while it's still quite wet. Here you can see how the recesses are nicely dark and deep, and this is how it looks once everything has dried. You could almost stop here, but of course we want to follow the full recipe, so we'll continue with a few more steps. Once again, McCrack Blue comes into play, along with a sponge. This time, however, I'm working a bit more carefully. I take some paint directly from the pot with a sponge, dab off a little on a palette or my finger, and then gently stipple the paint onto the model. The goal is to recover the raised surfaces with McCrack Blue without getting paint back into the recesses and deeper areas. I stipple the entire Space Marine this way. Before starting, you can fully soak the sponge in water and then squeeze it out completely, so it's only slightly damp and no longer releases moisture. This keeps the paint inside the sponge from drying out and allows us to stipple smoothly across the whole miniature. After that, I mix in some Calgar Blue. You can also jump straight to Calgar Blue if you prefer. I again load the sponge directly from the pot and use a small surface to mix the paint inside the sponge. Now I avoid the deepest areas and focus on covering roughly 70% of the model. I'm no longer trying to reach into every recess, just broad pass over about 70 to 80% of the raised surfaces. This step can be pushed further using pure Calgar Blue. Here I focus on the so-called zenithal surfaces. I imagine a light source coming from above and highlight the curves of the shoulders, the front of the legs, the side of the legs, the front of the helmet and the backpack. As if a light were shining down from above and brightening those areas. At the very end, I use Fenrisian Grey and carefully pick out just a few selected edges. Only a handful of edges by this point. I've already reattached the arms because the areas behind them should remain dark. The selected edges include the front of the legs, the front of the feet, and a few spots on top of the shoulders just above the arms. You can also slightly mix Fenrisian Grey with Khelga Blue if you prefer a softer transition. To finish everything off, I very lightly dry brush all the edges. This effectively gives us the final edge highlight for the Space Marine. And this is how the model looks when finished, significantly brighter than in the previous step and, in my opinion, fully highlighted and shaded. Next up is color blocking using Abaddon Black. What is color blocking and why do we do it? This is the step where we paint everything that is not supposed to be blue in black. We do this because a different color will be applied on top later. Whether that final color is black or something else doesn't really matter. What's important is that we create black borders underneath the areas that will receive a different color. This way we don't have to paint those colors perfectly up to the edge, because the black line already defines the boundary. This makes the miniature much easier to read, and in the end it simply looks better overall. Next up is the weapon painted using Eshin Grey and Dawnstone. These are the two grey tones listed in the Citadel app. We start with Eshin Grey, and my plan here is to use dry brushing. Bolters aren't my favorite part to paint. They're often hard for me to read visually, but dry brushing makes this step fast and very easy. We carefully dry brush along the bolter. I usually remove it from the miniature to get a better grip, then dry brush gently from top to bottom, making sure to catch all the edges. Once the first darker grey is done, I switch to the lighter grey Dawnstone and repeat the process. I load a bit of paint onto my palette, prepare the dry brush by wiping it off on my hand or using a dry brush mat, and then lightly go over the edges again. I don't cover the entire weapon, just the front corners, the top edge and the left side, almost like I'm drawing a frame around the bolter. And with that, the weapon is basically finished. Since I already have the light grey out, I also take care of the Space Marine's flexible joints. This isn't described in the Citadel app, but it's necessary. These are the ribbed sections of the armor, and I carefully pick them out in grey using an edge highlight with a brush. Now we move on to everything that's metallic. For this I'm using the well-known Leadbelcher. First I paint all the metal parts of the bolter with Leadbelcher. Then I move on to the metallic details on the backpack, mainly the lower sections, the top and the sides. I also noticed a few small buttons on the back of the leg, so I'm painting those in metal as well. They are often painted as glowing elements, but metal works just fine here. Basically everything that is metal gets a coat of Leadbelcher. Once that's done, I shade all the metallic areas with Nuln Oil. After the shade has dried, I start highlighting again using Leadbelcher and Stormhost Silver. I lightly reapply Leadbelcher over the flat areas, making sure not to touch the black recesses. And then I add a few small highlights with Stormhost Silver to make certain edges and points really shine. Now we move on to all the gold surfaces, most importantly the chest emblem. I paint these areas with Retributor armor. I've transferred it into this bottle here. It has good coverage, but you still need to go over everything twice. I'm especially careful around the edges of the shoulder trims. I want to keep that black line along the shoulder pad, so I take my time and avoid painting over the edge. Preserving that black border is important here. Following the recipe, everything is then shaded with Reikland Flash Shade. I apply it generously over all the gold areas, which gives the gold a nice, warm tone in the recesses. Just like in the previous steps, I clean things up again with the base color Retributor Armor. According to the Citadel app, there are 2 more gold tones after that, one mid-tone and one very bright highlight. With these I pick out a few edges and add just a handful of highlight points to finish the gold. I don't know if these last 2 steps are really necessary, but I do them for the Citadel app nonetheless. You really can see it here on the edges, what I mean with the last 2 highlights. Once again we come across a small oddity. The brown for the belt isn't listed in the Citadel app, but we still need it. So we go with a good old Mournfang brown, one of my favorite brown tones, and paint the Space Marine's belt in brown, then shade it with Ahreek's Earthshade. And that's already it for the belt. Finally, I can remove the connection points, the black tag I used to hold the individual parts in place, and start assembling the Space Marine properly by gluing everything together. This is a good time to remind you that if you enjoy beginner-friendly videos like this, feel free to give this video a like, leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. As always, I noticed that many people are watching who haven't subscribed yet. So here's your friendly reminder, please subscribe. It really means the world to me. And here we have our almost finished Space Marine. There's just one thing left, which I mentioned at the beginning. The eyes painted with Mephiston Red and Wild Rider Red. This step isn't described in the Citadel app either, but using a medium red and a brighter orange in the center works perfectly. It's already looking pretty good, but one final thing is missing: the base. And we'll do that in the classic Citadel style as well. For this step we don't need much. We'll be using Technical Stirland Mud, Ahreek's Earthshade and Zandri Dust. First we dab Stirland Mud all over the entire base. It's not a problem if the paint gets on the feet a little, it actually adds some extra immersion. Make sure the whole base is covered and let it dry thoroughly. Next we shade everything with Ahreek's Earthshade. Again, let it dry completely, then apply a light dry brush with Zandri Dust over the base. At this point our Space Marine is finished, though of course we still paint the entire edge of the base, the rim, in Abaddon Black. Doesn't that look great? Even though the Citadel app only provides a colored recipe and doesn't describe the techniques, I hope this video has helped show how to apply those recipes to your miniatures using simple techniques. You don't need to spend hours on one miniature or get stuck on painstaking edge highlights. The goal is to help beginners like you to get started with easy techniques, the Citadel app and Citadel paints, so later on you can branch out to other paint brands or expand on the techniques you liked here. So stay tuned, and I want to thank my sponsor Taschengeld Dieb for providing the paints and supporting this project. I'll be continuing to paint more Space Marine chapters in the same style and sharing them with you.